The hardest amount to make in your business is going from $0 to $1 because that requires you believe in a result that's not yet there.
That's Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy, host of the Life Coaching Secrets podcast, 2 Comma Club Award winner, and a 7-figure entrepreneur helping coaches build real businesses.
Once you get that first dollar, then everything else opens up and you move to your first 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million.
In this episode, we break down what takes a coaching business from $0 to $1 million.
There are a lot of people out there that will post these things and say, oh, here are the 50 best ways to find coaching clients. You don't need to have all these different strategies.
How coaches can get their first clients.
It all really comes down to just forming a connection with somebody, giving them value, and also tying in your service to an actual challenge that they want addressed.
And what actually gets people to buy.
People are not looking for perfect. They're looking for real. They're looking for honest. They're looking for connection.
Starting back to the beginning of, I guess, like kind of your journey, how did you end up coming across the idea of becoming a coach?
I really think the first wake-up call moment for me happened way before I got into coaching, and it was when I was around a teenager, 16, 17 years old. So I was living a pretty normal teenage life, and then I started having some issues with my heart rate. I had just like a racing heart beat at night, and I went to the doctor. They couldn't figure out what was going on, and then they started running some blood work and finally realized that there were some issues with my thyroid. I had this overactive thyroid, and as a teenager, it's very unsettling to hear it. At any age, it's unsettling to know there's something wrong, but here I am, young in my life, with everything ahead of me, thinking that I had all the time in the world, and now I'm questioning how much time I really could have. I started to really think about my mortality, as serious as it sounds. So it was my wake-up call when I really thought, what is it that I want to do with my life to make it meaningful? And it was a couple of years that I was going through all these medications and there was potential of having serious surgeries. But thankfully, everything stabilized and my thyroid levels cleared up. But I was left with this newfound passion to figure out what I want to do with my life. So I realized I wanted to do something that gave me a lot of freedom and also allowed me to help people, to really make an impact. So I was doing some research, and after going through college, I finally came across the term life coach, and I had a reaction probably a lot of people have when they first hear that term. They go, what does that mean, a life coach? And as I kept doing some research, I learned that life coaching is just about helping people move forward in their life, taking them from A to B in areas where they might feel stuck. It's very different from therapy, and I'm happy to explain that in a little bit if you want. But it's all about just helping people get to the next level. So it checked off all the boxes, and also I saw that people could have a lot of flexibility in their life and a lot of freedom while they were making a big impact as a coach. So I doubled down and said, this is what I want to do. I felt like this is what I was called to do. And I got myself into the coaching industry, and I started out where a lot of people begin, not really knowing how to find clients. And I remember the first coaching session I had given someone a free session, and I had not been trained. So I've read some books about coaching, listened to some podcasts. So I had a general idea, and I thought that was enough. But there was this part of me that was like, I'm just going to force myself through this by myself. And I don't need to have any mentorship or help. So I was in a session with a client. This was a free session. And just a few minutes into the session, she was so uncomfortable because I was all over the place. And she said, I want to end the call. She wasn't getting any value out of the free session. So it was a really humiliating moment for me, but it was also when I realized, just like anything in life, if you want to become great at it, if you don't just want to be good, but you want to be exceptional and great, you need to be properly trained and receive mentorship. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to invest in training, but I'm also going to invest in myself because I want to show up with integrity to my clients and actually help them get results. So I got trained, and after I learned how to coach, I was still left with this whole lingering piece of, well, how do I actually build up the coaching business side of things? So I did all the things that I thought would be right, but they were wrong. Made no money in my first year. And then things started to click. I finally figured out how to connect with people authentically, how to market myself as a coach. And as I built up my business and scaled it to multiple six figures, some people started to ask me how I did it. So I thought, what if I actually break it down and make it simpler so they can skip all the mistakes I made and know how to master both the art of coaching but the business of coaching. And that's what led to Thriving Coach Academy. And it's awesome because it's not just my own success. I've been able to see coaches that have been able to get their businesses up and running, make really powerful impacts with their clients. And we've seen this from all different walks of life. So that's how I got into the work I do now with Thriving Coach Academy.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that just like every other entrepreneur out there, like you hit that moment of adversity and then you decided to power through and push through that and end up being able to figure out like what actually works. So what were some of those things that you were finding were kind of the secrets to actually building that connection with the potential clients that you might have?
Yeah, before I was training coaches and I was just out there building up my business, I thought that you needed to have a really fancy website. I thought you needed to post inspirational quotes on Instagram and just have like all these high pressure weird sales tactics. And I did all these crazy things. I was putting flyers up around the city, the local university from the city I was living in at the time, and nothing worked. I would go door to door, business to business, and I would see if they wanted to hire me as a coach, and I was turned away and I was rejected so many times. But then I realized that it all really comes down to just forming a connection with somebody and giving them value. That's really all that marketing is. Connecting with people, giving them value ahead of time, and also tying in your service to an actual challenge that they want addressed. So when I started doing this, that's when I remember I hired my first client, and then from there, it just continued to grow. And, there are a lot of people out there that will post these things and say, oh, here are the 50 best ways to find coaching clients or the 27 ways to find clients. And I just think it's really not that complicated. You don't need to have all these different strategies. So I break it down with our students in the academy. There are just 5 organic ways to get clients. And these are going to be the best ways to take your business into the multiple six figures without having to pay for ads. You can add paying ads later on, but you don't need those. You can organically grow your business. So number 1 is networking, just knowing how to connect with people. You don't have to go to awkward networking events. It's just about the way you meet people normally in your life. I have, stories I can share of the most unusual places I've enrolled high ticket clients. So networking is number 1. Number 2 is referrals. So when you start working with clients, it's very natural for them when they get results to want to share their value with others and send them your way. That's number 2. Number 3 is through podcasting. So this is also, I think, a very introvert-friendly way to grow your business. Being able to just share your voice through the microphone and get your message out into the world. Podcasting is a great way to find clients. Number 4 is through live events. So doing like workshops or online webinars. And then finally, social media, posting on social media platforms. A lot of people assume that you need to be all over social media and go viral, but you really don't. You just have to really speak to a very specific type of person and a specific challenge. So you don't have to, get all these likes and win the algorithm. You've just got to provide value to a particular type of person. And in the academy, we also have a 1-1-1 principle, which means you just have one niche that you're looking to support. You have one marketing strategy. So you don't have to be doing social media and podcasting and all the other things. You just pick one and double down on it. And that'll take you to your first 1 million. So the 1-1-1 strategy is what we recommend for our coaches.
If you're listening to this show, it probably means one thing. You're focused on building a successful online business. Well, here's the truth. No matter how good your offers or systems are, they only work if you have a steady flow of quality leads coming in. And one of the most powerful ways that I've discovered to create that flow is through a podcast. That's why I created the Podcasting for Leads Masterclass. In this free masterclass, I break down how to design a podcast that consistently generates high-quality leads for your business by building relationships with the right guests, which gives you access to their network, their list, and their audience, all while positioning you as the go-to authority in your niche. So, if you want to create a predictable lead flow, attract dream clients on repeat, and build the kind of authority that fuels your long-term growth, then check out the Podcasting for Leads Masterclass. The link is in the description down below. Now, let's get back to the conversation. I love that. I think as I've conducted these interviews with individuals like yourself who have done 7 figures plus in their business, it's been the theme that I've seen where people have found that 1-1-1, and then they commit to the strategy until it starts working, and then they keep going until they hit that. Is that the same conclusion that you feel like you've come across?
Yep, just being consistent. I often say that the hardest amount to make in your business is going from $0 to $1, because that requires you believe in a result that's not yet there. So that means that when you start doing podcasting or you start doing social media or doing live events, you can't expect it to all, blow up overnight. You've got to trust and believe that clients are out there. I mean, the coaching industry has exploded over the past few years. It's just grown exponentially. So we know that people invest in coaching. And so it's not a matter of if people are out there that value it. It's just about you trusting in knowing that you have something valuable you could share and people want it. And by continuing to put that out there, eventually you'll see, okay, here's my first client. And once you get that first $1, then everything else opens up and you move to your first 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million.
That's amazing. I love that. Thank you for putting that in such simple terms for everyone to be able to understand at home. Insanely valuable. So help me understand a little bit about where it was that you found was kind of like your main, like one thing that you were going for when you started realizing things were starting to work.
When I started realizing things were working, maybe you can clarify. What are you wanting to know exactly?
Mm-hmm. What was kind of like your main, like traffic source, if you will? Like you mentioned that there were several avenues, but was there one in particular that kind of stood out to you as the best one?
Got it. So, and this is before I was training coaches. So I really doubled down on doing live events. I'm an introvert too. I just made a podcast episode about how to grow a coaching business as an introvert. So I knew that I did not want to really be in the spotlight with a lot of people around me. So instead of, having these stories about what it means to be an introvert, because I was never the type of person to really like big groups. I've always been the person that likes, like a more intimate environment. I like my time to recharge. I like my independent solo time. So I thought, rather than make it an excuse, I'm an introvert, so I can't be a successful entrepreneur, because I think a lot of people assume you've got to be super visible and all over the place. And yes, it requires some visibility, but you can do it on your terms. So I started doing live events and in-person workshops, but I would have them be more intimate. So I would invite 10 to 12 people maximum. That also created a little bit of scarcity for the workshop, so people were more incentivized to enroll and register. And I just provided value for a couple of hours on whatever the topic was for the workshop. And then naturally there were people that wanted to get more support. And one of the other things that I found worked really well is offering a more premium and high ticket coaching program, because I wanted to not just make the impact, but I wanted to have the freedom. And I assumed in the beginning, like many newer coaches do, that if you want to be making multiple 6 figures, it means you have to be working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and work with this endless list of clients, just like charging by the hour. And I've realized you can actually simplify everything and just go premium. So going premium doesn't mean just charging more for the sake of charging more. I want to be clear. It's about offering a really high impact, high value service, and also just aligning that with the price that you put on it. And there's a whole different type of person you attract when you have a more premium tier coaching service. And we teach our students how to do all of this. It's one of the unique marketing strategies we teach, is having a more of a premium tier coaching business instead of having a more basic coaching business where you're charging a cheap hourly rate and constantly hustling. So what I did is I created high ticket programs that were $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 each. And I would offer that to my potential clients, my workshop attendees throughout the year. I would host events, maybe like 1 or 2 workshops throughout the year, or per month throughout the year. And there would always be a portion of people that attended the workshops that would want to have more support. So I would have maybe dozen or a couple dozen of clients in the year, all investing 5, 10, 15K. And so I was able to do a lot of deep work with those clients, but have so much freedom outside of that work as well. So I wasn't like coaching clients around the clock. And I found this was really the best strategy that gave you that win-win, because when you charge a low hourly rate, it's really a lose-lose, because you're not making the money you want to make. You don't feel like you're being valued, but you're also not attracting the most dedicated and committed clients, right? It takes a certain type of person to say yes to a high-ticket coaching program, and those people are out there. It's just that so few coaches know how to properly speak to them and attract them. So that's something that we really teach, and that's something that I found worked extremely well when I was growing my business over the years.
I love that. I think that there's definitely something to be said about, again, the type of people that you attract in that, and then also their willingness to do the work that's required to get the results that they're going for, right? And when they pay a higher amount, it seems to be that they're more committed. It's like they're putting more energy toward it, so they're really going to try to get the outcome out of that. Has that kind of been the experience that you've had?
100%. In the book, I talk about how there are three kinds of people. There are freeples, and there are cheaples and preeples. So freeples, and this is all just different buying behavior that people have. So freeples are the people that always want things for free, right? You can charge something for $1 and they'll say, why isn't it free? So I always think about, sometimes if you go to like the mall, there might be the food court and they give out the free samples. Like the freeple, and like I'm totally guilty of this, especially growing up, like I'm just gonna go around, get all the free samples and leave. So that's like freeple buying behavior. They just don't want to invest. Then there are cheaples, where they're willing to invest, but it's all about what's going to be the best deal. How can I negotiate things down? How can I spend the least amount, right? So you could cater to the freeples, you could cater to the cheaples, but you can also just make your life a lot easier and cater to the preeples. And the preeples are the people that really do see the value as the thing that matters the most. So they're not looking for what's the cheapest. They're looking for what's the best and what's going to give me the best return and what's going to give me the most value. And we all, this is not about like just ultra wealthy people. We all have maybe an area or two in our lives where we shop like a preeple, right? For some people, it's fashion. They don't want the cheap discounted clothes. They want to get like the high fashion. Some people are preeples when it comes to travel. They want to have the nicer airline seats, the nicer hotels and accommodations. Some people are preeples with technology. They want to have the fanciest laptop, the newest phone. And there are preeples for personal growth and transformation. So these are the people that will make your ideal coaching clients. Those are the people that value their personal growth. They see the value in investing in themselves. And those are going to be the ones that happily say yes to a $5, $10, $15,000 program. And they're also going to be the ones that instantly overlook a cheap coaching program because they're thinking, oh, that's cheap. Well, it must not be that valuable. So you actually speak to a very particular type of person that's already out there when you have a premium coaching business. You cater to the preeples.
I love that a lot. I think, those analogies you gave, I can think of myself as somebody who's a preeple for the tech side of things. I can think of my friend who is a preeple for the fashion side of things. But then I think I'm also a preeple for like the, investing in myself and things of that nature. But I'm curious to know, like, what are some of those like messaging things that you can say that attract the preeple who are into the investing in themselves side of things?
Yeah. And this is kind of in our program, we have what's called the premium coaching formula. So really understanding like when you dissect it, how do you call in more of the preeple? So number one is having a clear niche. So really having a specific type of person that you want to work with, but also what's the challenge that you're going to help them with. So even though I am in the life coaching industry, I often teach our coaches to not call themselves a life coach because it's so general and vague, and who even knows what that really means, right? We can understand what it means as a coach, but how does it translate to other people? So instead of focusing on what you call yourself, you focus on the challenge that you help people overcome. And there are three, we can call like super niche areas: health, wealth, and relationships. So as long as you're catering to, and those are still very broad, but those are the most viable niches. So when a coach often comes into our program, they might have an idea of who they want to work with, but it's not really a viable niche. And when I say that, I mean, it's not really a niche where people are already seeking to invest in resolving that challenge. So you want to tap into a currency, a river, a flow that's already there, rather than you starting your own stream. Just see, where are people already investing in coaching, in courses, in mentorship, and how could I insert myself into that stream? Like, I could put my bucket into the river, and that way it just fills up right away. So one of the most important things to summarize is having a very clear niche that hits on one of those three super niches. Health, wealth, relationships, while they're still broad, you can dial in and get very specific. So instead of being a health coach, maybe you help new fathers get in shape, right? Like that's way more specific. Instead of being a relationship coach, which is very broad, right? Maybe you help, like, for a while in my coaching business before I trained coaches, I helped single gay men that were looking for love. Very dialed in. And when you specialize, it automatically gives you credibility. You automatically stand out. And when you have that credibility and you stand out and people seek you out because you're offering something that's more tailored, more customized, they will be willing to pay 10 times more than just the general coach. So you can think of it like, if you have a health problem, maybe you have a heart issue, you can go to a primary care doctor, or you can choose to see the cardiologist, the specialist, right? Who would you rather get the answers from, and who also charges a lot more, and who is in more demand and in fewer supply? It's the cardiologist, the specialist. So having a niche works very similarly with your business. That's one of the most important things to get you into premium territory. The other is going to be having testimonials, right? Having data-driven testimonials for your business. So when I got started as a coach, I didn't really capture testimonials from clients because I just felt awkward asking. I thought that the clients would say no. And I came to realize that they're actually very happy. When people get value, they're very excited to talk about it and share it with others. And when you can have testimonials, it does the marketing for itself, right? You don't have to really convince anyone of anything. I think that marketing, there's a difference between finding and getting clients versus attracting clients. And the type of marketing that you want to do is client attraction. So you are calling people in rather than you going to them and pushing your coaching or your services onto somebody. That also doesn't really feel good when you're doing that. So when you can have testimonials, when you can actually show the data behind how your coaching makes an impact, and you're very specialized, those are just a few of the ingredients to help getting you up to the premium tier category.
I love everything you just shared. The thing that has me the most excited there is you've talked about like niching, and I see that as one of the most important trends in all of marketing and being successful in that regard. And then the second thing that I really want to highlight for the listeners is, like, you talked about finding the bucket and putting it in the river, right? And like, when you do that, you're basically modeling success, right? It's like all these other people are already in the place and you can see the money coming there, and you have to think about it abundantly, right? So it's like there's an abundance of opportunity there and you're just tapping into it, like you said, and I absolutely love that. But one thing that you also said that I want to dive a little more into is talking about the idea of getting those testimonials in the beginning. And I want to know if you have any like tricks or tips for doing that as somebody who's starting out.
It's a great question. So one of the strategies we teach is to go from pro bono to high ticket. So when we talk about being a premium tier coach, we don't mean, okay, tomorrow just go charge $10,000 for your coaching. Because for most people, for me especially when I got started, there's no way I was going to feel confident in doing that. And if you don't feel confident charging it, how is someone else going to feel confident to invest? So sometimes you start out pro bono. You can take on a few clients, handful of clients, waive whatever your coaching fee is going to be, and you have an agreement with that client. And it's to give you, as long as they're working with you, to give you feedback, and if they get value, to give a testimonial. And this is really that perfect way for a newer coach. Like, when they have a set of tools and they've been trained, it's a nice entry point into the industry because they can start working with actual people. They could start building up their confidence because there's really nothing to lose, right? They don't have this extra concern of, oh, someone paid me and now I really need to deliver. You're working with them pro bono, so you're doing it to learn, and they're also getting value. The other cool thing is that when you do the pro bono work, they are way more likely to give that testimonial when they've received value. Like, they want to reciprocate in some way. So when you start out, you'll have those testimonials. and we have like a whole script we recommend our coaches ask their clients to really get a powerful, juicy testimonial. We also have different forms that we want you to send your clients before, right when they start working with you, the middle of their work with you, and at the end, to create tangible results so you can see the data, like how someone's actually transformed from their work. Because a lot of coaches out there, unfortunately, the ones that are not really properly trained, they might have testimonials, but it's just clients saying, oh, I worked with so-and-so and my life is better, or things improved, or I just feel different. But it's not like, where's the data? So you want to be able to have clients say, I worked with John, and I saw a 50% increase in my income, or I have an 80% increase in my relationship satisfaction. I feel, whatever it is, instead of going on 0 dates every month, I'm going on 5 dates a month. Like, there's actually something tangible and real. So by having the data-driven testimonials, this is like your little wall of fame. And when you have future potential clients, you can easily refer them to that. And that's going to also make you feel better about actually charging, because you can point to that and go, look at the results. Look at what people are saying, look at what they're getting. And it helps future clients actually see themselves getting those results as well. So then you could incrementally grow. You can charge $1,000 for your coaching. You can give yourself a raise at any time. That's one of the beautiful things about the coaching industry. You can work with a few clients, then go to $2,500, and then $5K, and then $10K. And I tell our coaches in the academy, like, once you get in that premium tier territory, you are not going to go back. So once you enroll that first 5K client, you're not going to drop your rates. You're just going to continue sustaining that until you give yourself the next raise.
I love that. I think it's a matter of standards, like you're talking about in the end there. It's like once you get in there, it's like you realize, like, okay, this is how it goes now, like, and then you hold that line. That's awesome.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So to dive into a little bit more of the, I guess, like technical side of this, was there any, I guess we'll go toward, you obviously got the 2 Comma Club award there for 7 figures. What type of funnel did you use in order to ultimately achieve that?
I had a podcast to webinar funnel. So I have one of the top ranked and top listened to coaching podcasts in the industry. It's called Life Coaching Secrets. And, started that out and just continued to pour value into it. And just over time, that began to attract students to our program. And when students go to our website, we have a free training, a free webinar. It's called Coaching 101. And it basically gives in 1 hour the most essential things you need to know about getting into the coaching industry. And then at the end of that, I go over all of our curriculum and our program and how they can get started. So, I've loved that webinar framework for years, and we teach it to our students as well that also want to, take their potential clients and inspire them to become paying clients. And that's really it. Most of our students just enroll on the spot. They just invest the 10K, 15K, whatever. I don't know when this will be posted, but whatever our tuition is, we are a high ticket program. But if some students want to have some questions answered, we currently give them the option to book a call with our team if they want to just like talk things through. I used to require that all potential clients have some kind of consultation or call, but just as and I think that's great, like when you're getting in your earlier, maybe like intermediate adolescent years of your business, I'll say, but really when your business gets to a more mature adulthood phase, that's really where it becomes just a money-making machine, right? You can just make money overnight because your value, all of those episodes, those podcasts are there. There's over 200 at this point. And like, that's what the coaches look forward to with their businesses. Their value just accrues over time. And then the money just flows in, the clients just come in. So we've used the webinar framework.
That's awesome. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Selfishly, I got to ask about the podcast because obviously I do one as well. What made you want to get into it in the beginning, ultimately?
Well, I mean, this is my third. I used to have a couple of other podcasts before I was training coaches. So I will say, like, it took me a year before I even had the courage to just say yes. And I think that's such an important part of entrepreneurship, right? It's not waiting until you feel confident, not waiting until you feel ready. You just have to be willing to say yes, even when there's doubt, even when there's fear and uncertainty. And my other big fear was around, what are people going to think about me? Are people going to reject me, judge me, criticize me? And this was one of those fears that held me back a lot in my life. And then one day I realized that people are going to judge you no matter what you do in life, no matter what path you take, right? They're going to judge you if you are hiding and playing small. They're also going to judge you if you're showing up fully, sharing your gifts, and playing big. So since people will judge you no matter what, you get to ask yourself the question, would you rather them judge the small, fearful version of you or the big version of you that's showing up fully? So I realized I want people to judge that version of me. So I'm no longer going to let it be an excuse that, I'm not going to share my gifts and live my purpose because of what other people think. I was like, I'm done letting other people's opinions hold me back. So I finally decided I'm going to do the podcast, even though I'm afraid, even though I don't feel ready. And I just started little by little. I just thought, like, for each episode, okay, I want to pour as much value as I can into this 15, 20, 25-minute episode. And just publishing and trusting that your voice matters, that people actually want to hear it. Because I also was thinking, who am I to really say anything when there's other people out there? There's other experts and thought leaders. And this is where I really gained another valuable lesson that might be helpful to those listening, because you probably notice, like, the people that are several steps ahead of you. I realized that there's going to be something about you, your essence, that inherently makes you different and allows you to stand out. And this is like a new advantage that any new coach has, right? You are bringing something different to the table, and that makes you stand out automatically. And I'm not just saying this to make, people feel good. It truly is what I noticed happen with my own business. I remember one time I had a client hire me, and it was a high ticket investment. She had invested maybe close to 10K to work with me. And I asked her one day, I said, there's so many other more experienced coaches out there, so why did you hire me? And she said, I hired you, Frank, because of you. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, well, just you, your essence, your vibe, your story, just who you are, like the presence that you have when I'm around you. And that's where it all really clicked. Like, there are people right now that will be drawn to your essence. Like, your experience is one thing. Okay, a lot of people think you need to have the experience, but what if, just to consider, if you're afraid of putting yourself out there, what if you have something about your essence and no one can replicate that, and that automatically gives you an advantage? So you've just got to put yourself out there. So I started to do that with my podcast, trusting in my essence, being more valuable than my experience, because we all start somewhere. Like, no one has everyone has to start somewhere, right? So I just started with where I was, trusting in my essence, and that's where I just saw things grow. I don't know if I really answered your question, but I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I definitely do. I know that for myself, for instance, I definitely took value away from that. Predominantly, I've done my podcast interview style, and as of recent, we've gained access to a in-person podcast studio. So we're potentially going to be doing that, but we have to obviously make it make sense for people and all that stuff. So we're going to practice doing possibly some me talking, and I've never done that before. So I find that very insightful and helpful. So thank you for those insights.
Yeah.
Once you kind of jumped into that side of things, how did you begin to feel about the process of recording those podcasts over time? Were there any big hurdles that you felt that you overcame, or things of that nature?
Great question. So in coaching, we call some blocks that we all experience masks. Like, we all have different masks that we wear. And there are, endless number, but there are 3 that are the most common. We teach our coaches, how do you recognize these masks with your client? How do you help them put those masks down? And the 3 main masks are overachieving, perfectionism, and people-pleasing. These are the most common in society, but they're also the most common, I think, in a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs that could hold them back. And the reason why we have a mask to begin with is because there was a point in our life where we were afraid of judgment or criticism, or thinking we were going to be kicked out of the group. So we wore the mask to fit in at the expense of our truth, of our authenticity. So a lot of people rely on these masks, and they go through their life thinking, I need to wear this mask to be approved by others. But really, you miss out on all that's out there when you could put the mask down and just really let yourself be truly seen. So I have had a combination of all the 3 masks that I just mentioned, but I think one of the things that helped me with podcasting in particular is really looking at that perfectionism mask. right? Because perfectionism is, on one hand, it's a nice thing to really strive for excellence, but it could really cripple somebody because they might think, I can't click post, I can't send this message, I can't launch this podcast because it's not quite there yet. It's not quite perfect. I didn't really say it how I wanted to say it. So you're afraid of sounding bad and people thinking that you don't know what you're talking about. And the truth is that people are not looking for perfect, okay? They're looking for real. They're looking for honest. They're looking for connection. And connection is really what matters more than anything. So there have been so many times where in my podcast, I've recorded and then I wanted to say, you know what, let me delete that. Let me start the whole thing over. But I trained myself to just click post anyway, just click publish. And one of the tips that we often give our students is to just go for B minus. Right? Like when we go through schooling, it's all about how could you get to the highest grade, right? That's what opens up the most opportunity, getting the closest you can to perfect. But you've got to flip the script. You've got to rewrite a lot of the rules when it comes to entrepreneurship. And one of those rules is to not try going for 100% all the time. This doesn't mean to put out like really crappy stuff, but it's about knowing if it's at least a B minus, because you're going to be your own worst critic, it's going to be an A plus to somebody else. And there have been so many times when I've published episodes and I thought I could have probably emphasized this point a little bit more or clarified this, or like I just made up a word there that didn't make any sense, but I still click publish, and then people would message and say, wow, this episode really transformed my life, or it made such a big difference. So realizing that it doesn't have to be perfect is one of the huge things to overcome that perfectionism mask. Just knowing that, go for B minus, take the imperfect action, because that's how you really move forward.
I love that advice. It actually makes me think of a story of a buddy of mine that I want to share real quickly for anybody who's listening. Taking imperfect action can be something as simple as like my buddy who was traveling, doing a vlog and everything, right? He proceeded to try to figure out if he could create content around just trying hot wings at this one restaurant. And what ended up happening that was wild was after he proceeded to record this video and post it, he didn't get many views. But years later, he's now participating as a community leader on School. And I believe it was Sam Ovens and some of the other founders of School actually came across that video, and they resonated very, very deeply with that moment of him just eating the hot wings. And it became a joke of giving them the opportunity to connect on something so simple and straightforward. And yeah, so I want to reiterate your point there, Frank, with that story.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember one time years ago, I had been doing an in-person workshop, and I only had about 10 minutes to do it. So like every minute counted. And I had a script with me to keep me on track, keep me focused. So I had a little stand with my notes on it, and I was speaking to this group, and I was hoping to get some clients from this because it was a bunch of entrepreneurs. And at the time, that's before I was training coaches, that was one of the niches that I supported, people that were looking to grow their individual businesses and just be more confident with their marketing. So anyway, I was starting this speech, and then about 5 minutes in, I noticed that my notes slipped and they fell off my stand. And it was like slow motion. I saw all of my papers just slowly flow their way to the ground. And here I am in front of this group of people, and I thought, oh, no one's going to take me seriously anymore. I mean, I look so unprofessional. I don't have my notes. But then there was this other voice that came over me and just said, okay, like just keep going. It's fine. Just let the show go on. So I actually, it's on video somewhere, but I actually looked at the notes and I said, oh, okay, bye-bye. I guess that's not happening. And like everyone in the room chuckled, and it eased the tension. I didn't even like at the time realize I had said that out loud. But then something flipped where I realized it's not about the script, right? People don't want you for that script. They want you for this. They want to see the real you. So I finished my presentation assuming that nothing was going to yield from it. And then after the event, one of the event organizers said, you have a stack of registration forms filled out. And I'm like, that cannot be true. And she handed me this stack with all these people with their name and their credit card information. And I had made thousands of dollars from a 10-minute presentation. And that was really set in. Like, you are not needing to be anywhere near perfect. Like, people want what's real. So instead of trying to get things right, like, stop trying to get things right and just start getting it real with your people. That's what's going to attract them to want to work with you.
I love that. That's an amazing story. It really goes to show like those moments of adversity where like you think it's supposed to go a certain way, but then you just let the flow of life happen, take a breath and keep moving, and then all of a sudden something like that happens. That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're in the second half of 2025 right now. What are some of your business goals as we round off the year here?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm really fortunate that my business is in a more mature phase where, and sometimes when people ask me, what are you up to now? A lot of it's just keeping on what I'm doing, like continuing being consistent. When you get in an earlier phase, sometimes you've got to throw a lot of ideas out there and you've got to know that most of those ideas will not land. And then eventually you're going to find something that sticks, like an offer that really resonates. And then you'll start seeing things come together once you have all the pieces. And then the game changes. It's just about doing what you're already doing. Like even if it feels kind of routine, because if you're constantly changing a lot and disrupting a lot, then it could impact your business. So a lot of it, my plan is consistency. We are growing our team, so we've taken on some new instructors. I noticed that I wear more of the manager hat now, where I will make sure that our team members and instructors are up and running and successfully supporting our students. So I'm making sure I'm providing support for them. I had published my book in the first half of the year, so I actually have a copy right here. It's behind me. This was a big goal, so this was something that I launched a few months ago. So that was a big 2025 goal. And moving forward, it's just about continuing on with the podcast. There are a few extra resources that I want to give to our students. So my brain is, even though our program's already like great and our students love it, there's this part of me that's always wanting to up it. So like marketing wise, everything, like keep doing what we're doing, but inside there are a few extra goodies that I want to give to our coaches, that I'm like in the early phases of planning right now, like extra resources to help them sell and attract the premium client, and some other goodies. So I don't want to spill too much right now, but just working on some things behind the scenes to help our coaches thrive even more in their businesses. Because it's interesting, like a lot of them, they're just crushing it and just like eager to take that next level. So it challenges me, because as our coaches' businesses grow, I think, okay, how can I make it even simpler? How can I help them get the results even faster and scale to the next level? I'm wanting to also provide a resource to our coaches on how they can lead longer events, like 2-day summits. That was something I did before I trained coaches. I led like Saturday, Sunday events, and you need to really structure those in a strategic way. So I this past week I was outlining a training I want to give to our coaches that are into live events. But instead of just doing like a 90-minute 2-hour workshop or webinar, how can you really lead a more transformational weekend where you can attract really eager clients and then make a high ticket offer at the end? It requires like a whole different approach. So I'm in the process of working on that for our coaches.
That's really cool. That sounds like it'll be a ton of fun there when you guys get that all ironed out and start launching it and putting it out there. That'll be sweet. I love the idea of the book that you've written there. If you wouldn't mind kind of sharing the inspiration behind what made you want to write it, and kind of, I guess, the biggest takeaways that if somebody wanted to dive into it would take away from the book.
I wanted to create a resource that was really accessible, because we do have the podcast, which is free, and it's hundreds of episodes. Our program is higher ticket, but I wanted to create a resource for people that maybe they were saving up for our program, or they just wanted like something that they could have their hands on that they could utilize to like give them a really strong foundation of how to be successful in coaching. There are other coaching books out there, but a lot of them are outdated. Like they share stuff that, worked 10, 20 years ago, but I really wanted a book that was more modern. Like, where is the coaching industry going right now, and how could you be ahead of the curve? And I also wanted to share, as someone that went through it, like I actually walked the walk and was, finding clients on my own and doing all these things, and going through all the challenges that I know coaches go through. I wanted to peel back the curtain and say, well, here's what I've learned, and here's how you can avoid the mistakes that I made. So it's a very raw book that goes into some of the highs and the lows. The first half of the book is more about the art of coaching, so knowing how to actually lead a coaching session and I talk about the coaching method that I developed called the Rulebook Coaching Method. And it's a really simple but effective framework that our coaches learn in addition to other tools that just gets breakthroughs within minutes. So really helping your client figure out what is the rule that's holding them back, how can you challenge the rule and then create a new one. And we all have these invisible rule books that we carry around, and those rules dictate how we live, how we show up, how we engage with others, how we approach goals, etc. So I go into the rulebook coaching method. I have actual scripts in the book that people can see it all put together. And then the second half is all about the business side of coaching. So knowing how to really set up a business that you can scale. I talk all about the premium business model that I've mentioned here a few times. How could you really get that business that gives you the freedom that you also want to have in your life? So I lay out everything that took me to my first 1 million and more.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like a very value add book, and definitely love to check it out myself.
Yeah.
So I am also in the process of writing a book at the moment, and you obviously just launched this year, so congratulations on that, first and foremost. Secondly, I'm curious to know, like, what was kind of the signal for you, or the thing that you realized like the book was done, like it was ready to go, it was good to finish? Because I know that that's probably the biggest obstacle that I'm running into at the moment.
The whole book writing process was really insane. I mean, you're in it now, so you probably know. I had so much I wanted to share in the book that it was interesting. Like when it got to the editing phase, we ended up chopping at least 50,000 words. And then even after that, when the book was almost ready, I'm like, I want to slash another 5 chapters. So I think that what was interesting is I hired somebody to do the audiobook. And I mean, I could have easily done that, but it would have taken so much time, and I would have rather just poured that into making new podcast episodes and just like doing other things. So I hired a professional to narrate the book, and that was interesting because and then I listened to the whole narration. And when I was listening to it, it gave me a different perspective on every chapter. Because if I speak a chapter, it makes sense to me. But when someone else speaks the chapter, it actually lands differently. So it allowed me to see, oh, actually, this whole chapter, we don't need it. Or, this part can be clarified. But I was still in my mind remembering what I shared earlier. Go for B-. With a book, there's that heightened pressure because it's, usually you're not editing a book when it's published. So they were still reminding myself of that. Like there's always going to be little tweaks. And it's funny, I was flipping through it before our call, and I'm like, oh, okay, that sentence actually didn't need to be there. But it's okay because it's out in the world. And just yesterday, someone sent an email saying how the book has been so inspiring for them. So like getting the messages like that really affirms that it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think you'll just know when it's done. You just got to trust. And asking yourself that question, is this at least B- work? Because your B- is going to be many people's A+. And then, like having an editor, highly recommend. Of course, you have a professional editor, and then eventually you will get to the point where you're ready to publish it and get it out into the world. I have a good friend that recently went through a pregnancy, and she just gave birth this past week, but like she knew she was ready to give birth, right? So it's like a weird metaphor to have, but I kind of knew, like, okay, this book has to be birthed into the world right now. So I don't know if that's going to land with everybody, but you just kind of know it's time to get this out there, because the longer you hold on to it, the longer time goes on without that gift being shared with others. So you've also got to focus on the people that are hungry and waiting for your book, and let that motivate you to get it out there. I feel like that's the weirdest metaphor. But hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely it does. It's that intuition, that just kind of otherworldly like vibe, if you will. I don't know how to explain
Yeah.
it in another way, but yeah, that's awesome. And I love that idea that you just mentioned about having somebody else do the audio narration, because then it's like hearing your thoughts through someone else's mouth. Now all of a sudden you're like, okay, like, does
Yeah.
that make sense or not? And I'm totally gonna do that as a part of my process. So thank you for that tidbit there.
It was
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, I highly recommend.
Yeah. So when you went to ultimately put the book out there, what were some of the methods that you were doing to help market it?
So I had a launch team, and This included, my own network of family and friends, just people that have been following me for a while, listeners of the podcast. I let them know about the book. Our students and graduates in Thriving Coach Academy, I let them know about the book. I had a lot of bonuses that people would receive. If they were students, they had a series of bonuses if they purchased like 3 books or 5 books or 10 books. And if they were not yet students in the program, I still wanted to give them value. So I had 3 different tiers of bonuses. And it was, a little bit tedious, a lot of following up, and then getting people to read the book in advance, because I didn't realize that until I started digging in. And I did hire a book publishing coach. And whatever goal you have in your life, just hire a coach, enroll in a course or a program. It's going to make it so much simpler. So I learned the strategy of having people read the book ahead of time and then start leaving reviews before the official launch date. So it's kind of like a stealth launch. And that way, when the book actually gets published to your wider audience, there's already social proof there and reviews. So that was a little bit of the launch strategy. And then once people started reading the book and sending messages and screenshots and pictures with the book, or little things, then you can just put that out there, and it encourages more and more people to get it. So having that little window, that launch phase, and we did hit #1 on Amazon in a few categories, which was super exciting. I did not have a lot of sleep during the launch week because I was constantly checking the rankings on Amazon. But even if your book or whomever's book doesn't hit #1, it's the bigger picture is just knowing you put something out into the world that gets to live beyond you. It's the legacy you're creating, and now you just get to enjoy the impact that it makes for others.
That's awesome. I love that. Those are some very positive words of encouragement for anybody who's out there looking to publish anything that they think can be a great contribution toward society ultimately. So, we live in a unique day and age right now where we have the ability to capture a moment in time via video, right? And I think that gives us the opportunity to kind of leave advice for future generations down the road. So what do you think would be, out of everything that you've experienced in your life thus far, the best piece of advice that you could leave for future generations?
Okay, I love the question as well. And my advice, it just came to me as you were saying it, especially for, I guess, younger generation, would be to embrace the cringe. Okay, because now there seems to be this, oh, don't say that, that's cringe, don't do that, it's cringe. And I'm working on a podcast episode on this right now. But there are, unfortunately, many people, you might see my dog pop in the screen for a moment. There are so many people that are afraid to pursue their goals and dreams because they are afraid of how others are going to judge them if they fail, if they fall down. So they think, I would much rather not put myself out there and pursue what I want. I'd rather not do that than potentially do that and fall down and other people see me and judge me. And I think that in order to really have the life you want and not live in an ordinary life, but an extraordinary life, you need to embrace the cringe. You have to embrace the judgment, right? Don't feel like you have to keep your goals and dreams a secret. You want to put it out there. And truthfully, no one really judges down. Right? People that are successful are too busy enjoying their life and being successful to judge others that are a few steps behind them. So people that might criticize and judge you, that's a good thing because you are a few steps ahead of them, because people only judge up, not the other way around. So I would say to embrace the cringe, don't be afraid of it. Don't think that you need to just look cool and be aloof and just keep yourself going through the motions. There's so many things that people probably hold themselves back on. And maybe it's a question for the listeners right now to reflect on. What is it that you feel called to do and try and share? What is it that you want to create that you know that you're just afraid of what people are going to think about you? You think, oh, that's going to be so cringy, right? I want you to choose the cringe. Choose that, because that's where the magic happens. And what if instead of avoiding it, you just welcomed it, right? What if the cringing feeling is just proof that you're trying something new, which is a good thing, right? What if the cringe that you feel is just you knowing that you have the courage to really care about others and you're sharing something important, right? So if you're feeling this cringe, I think you're onto something. And I think this is what really makes life feel alive instead of just existing, right? Just going through the motions, being comfortable, being complacent. By having a life where you're out of your comfort zone, you have a little bit of doubt, you're a little bit excited, you're maybe a little bit cringe in what you're doing. That's really what makes life worth living. That's what makes life meaningful. So don't avoid the cringe, embrace it.
I love that. I think one more thing that I would add into that to iterate for the listener is like a lot of those moments where you feel that sense of fear before you may choose to do or not do that cringe thing is like right on the other side of it tends to be the exact thing that you're looking for. And it's so wild. I assume that's been your experience as well there.
That's so true. The life that you want is right on the other side of your fear. And the fear's not going to go away. It's just the price of admission. So sometimes when people have a big goal or dream, they think, okay, well, I want to wait until I feel comfortable. I want to wait until I feel ready. When really it's the price of admission, right? If you want to become a successful entrepreneur or coach, the price of admission is some people are going to have judgments about you. You're going to have anxiety and doubts. But when you're able to realize that you've already had anxiety and doubt, like you've already experienced these emotions in your life and you're still here, you're still alive, you're still okay. It gives you this freedom, right? When you can be at peace with the emotions. You don't always have to feel excited. You can feel doubtful. You can feel afraid. You can, question everything. But you just know that all of those emotions are a sign you are alive. It's a sign you're on the right track. It's the price of admission. So it's just the price of admission to paying the life of your dreams. And it's worth it.
I love that. Most definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Frank. If anybody who's listening wants to get involved in any of your programs or get your book or just reach out to you if they have any questions, where can they do that?
You can head to our website, thrivingcoachacademy.com. We've got our free Coaching 101 training if you want to check that out. The book, The Thriving Coach, available in all formats. And the podcast, Life Coaching Secrets, if you want to hear a little bit about me ramble on about some of the secrets of how to succeed in the coaching industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today and all these amazing insights.
My pleasure. Thanks, John.